Hello, and welcome back to another edition of the Tech in 10 post-game show from the Ruston Daily Leader. I'm sports reporter Matt Belinson coming to you live inside Joe IE Stadium after Louisiana Tech's 40-37 loss to North Texas. This is the Tech in 10 post-game show presented to you by the Northern Louisiana Medical Center. I want to thank them for sponsoring this video series this season. I think it's pretty self-explanatory where this video will pretty much start and end tonight, and that is the Louisiana Tech defense. You look at this scoreboard tonight in Division I college football. You score 37 points, you should win that game. And I think the headline tonight is clearly that Louisiana Tech's defense just did not come to play. North Texas North Texas rolls up, I should say, 562 total yards of offense, 11 of 18 on third down, 2 for 2 on fourth down. Chandler Rogers. It was unclear, up until game day pretty much of who was going to start for North Texas. Chandler Rogers, a ULM transfer, comes in. Looks like Superman tonight. 24 of 41, 313 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also did some damage on the ground. It was just a non-showing for the Louisiana Tech defense. Just could not get off the field when it needed to, and it mattered most. I think it was kind of poetic there at the end. Smoke Harris, takes a bubble screen 36 yards to the house to tie this game up somehow at 37-37, with just over a minute left. And just to be frank, I looked, over at one of my media partners, in the press box, and I was like, yeah, I have a feeling that North Texas is going to go down there and have a chance to win it. What evidence did Louisiana Tech show tonight that says that they're going to rise up now and stop? And it was clear. Chandler Rogers, a lot of sprint out action. Did some good designs just in terms of, kind of some leverage to get some Louisiana Tech defenders out of position. I thought, North Texas really took advantage of the middle of the field tonight. Louisiana Tech lost, a bunch of guys in space and just really had no business just kind of containing North Texas offense tonight. It was a struggle. And again, I think you look at this score, 40 points to a North Texas team that came in 0-2. Really, I guess from their vantage point, they had nothing to lose. I think if you're Louisiana Tech, certainly, it's a non-conference game. You got to remember that North Texas is now in the American Athletic Conference, but it still hurts all the same. Sonny Cumbie, he literally opened it with his presser. It was clear that I think Bulldog fans and coaches and players recognized, even though obviously there's still bigger goals ahead with Conference USA play coming up. I think it was pretty clear that if you're 3-1 heading into Lincoln, that Lincoln matchup, it's probably a loss. But you go 3-1 heading into Nebraska, anything can happen. Nebraska's certainly not a world beater, and you think, okay, 3-1, like, man, if we somehow pull off an upset here, 4-1, or 3-2, like, we'll take that. And again, I think the weight of expectations, and I think kind of the moment, early in the season, whether or not they played a part in kind of Louisiana Tech not coming to play on defense tonight, I'm not sure. But it was pretty obvious just post-game that I think players and coaches recognized kind of the missed opportunity, frankly, to really get the momentum going around this team of like, wow, okay, so maybe they are for real. 3-1 Louisiana Tech, okay, good for them. Certainly 2-2. Again, I think if you looked at the schedule, I think this North Texas game on paper was kind of a toss-up. Certainly coming into tonight, just based on where North Texas was, you're expected to win this game, and you should have won this game. So I think that's where the disappointment comes in. But again, I think it all starts with this defense. I think the talk all offseason in the fall camp and spring ball, frankly, was just the addition of a bunch of transfers, through the portal, linebackers, safeties, corners, just defensive ends. There was pretty much the entire defense was remade. There's only a few returners on this team that are actually starting from last year. And that was the talk of all offseason, is that we're not going to be the same team. We're not going to be the same team on defense. We're not going to be the same team on offense. We're going to be a better version of ourselves. And I'm just going to give you the raw numbers here. And you can you can make your own conclusions as to who takes responsibility or who's at fault. But these are just the facts. Including tonight, over Louisiana Tech's last 16 games. So that would be all of last season and then 4 games this year. In 16 of those games, 11 times, this Louisiana Tech defense has allowed over 420 yards. You just can't have that. Not if you want to win. And so certainly I think if you're Louisiana Tech coming out of tonight, I think there's just some big questions to be answered. I thought Miles Hurd played a pretty decent game. Michael Richard had a few good moments in the first half. Was called for kind of a questionable pass interference there. But it just in general, there was no bright spots on this defense tonight. North Texas just gashed them up the middle pretty much all night. Rarely went down on first tackle. Louisiana Tech really struggled, to tackle tonight on first contact. And again, Chandler Rogers, they made him look like Superman tonight. I just can't express enough how much uncertainty there was at that position going into this game for North Texas. And he comes out here tonight and he looks like the bona fide starter, from day one. So again, I think you talked to Cecil Singleton afterward. He kept it pretty generic in terms of why North Texas was so effective on third down. It was pretty clear. Again, they wanted Rogers to kind of get out of the pocket. Kind of again have Louisiana Tech's defensive backs off balance, kind of out of leverage. And again, the linebackers for Louisiana Tech again, didn't really fill their gaps. Missed some assignments as well. So. Again, I think just in general, it was just a poor performance from the Louisiana Tech defense. And I think that's the biggest reason why, the Bulldogs lost tonight. That being said, I think obviously, again, football, it's a three-way street, offense, defense, special teams. The offense did itself absolutely no favors in this game. Its first two drives, four total yards on its first two drives. Hank Bachmeier sacked on a 3-and-out and then a punt on a 3-and-out. After Ryan Rivera drops what would have been probably a 30-yard pass in the middle of the field for a huge chunk yardage and potentially a scoring drive. It's just it is kind of, I don't want to say insane, but it is just funny how we're 4 games into the season and it seems like Louisiana Tech has kind of come in the post game with pretty much the same message almost. And I even asked Sonny Cumbie that post game was. They have to start faster, offense and defense. They have to start faster. I mean, Louisiana Tech's been outscored 45-10 in the first quarter this year. I mean, you just can't have that. Certainly against FIU, probably you're more talented than them. I think you were able to overcome that. And then obviously Northwestern State, you were dominating for pretty much that entire game. But even so, I mean, as SMU tonight, parts of the FIU game, you come out of the gate sluggish. By the time you get into Conference USA play, I'm not confident with how many games you're going to be able to just come back and win, especially with how the defense played tonight. I'm not confident. Like, okay, you go to on 13-10 nothing. I mean that could be it. I mean realistically, this defense again showed tonight against a North Texas team that came in struggling. They just couldn't get off the field. So I think if you're Louisiana Tech, that's the most concerning part is that you're not even in conference play yet. And both offense and defense are having a lot of issues starting fast. Again, you can't have 4 total yards through 2 possessions. I mean, Sonny Cumbie even said his defense played 54 snaps in the first half, and its offense played 20. You can't have that if you're going to win. And certainly, again, the defense did itself no favors tonight. But you can't really blame them for being gassed if you play 54 snaps in the first half and your offense is out there, 3-and-out on 2 straight series. There's not much you can do there. So, again, I think if you're Louisiana Tech, I think you just have to come up with a way to get into a rhythm faster. I think you got to give Hank Bachmeier easier throws out of the gate, some bubble screens. Something easy, crossing routes. Something. It seems like the first couple passing options for him. He's got to wait time to develop, and clearly this offensive line this year has not shown the ability to pass protect consistently. And speaking of Hank, before I let you go here, obviously Hank took a pretty big shot there. In the third quarter, it was eventually called for roughing the passer, but Hank didn't return to the game. Jack Turner came in, his replacement for tonight, and finished the game. I thought it looked pretty solid. We'll see going forward, at Nebraska who plays. Sonny Cumbie said tonight that, obviously they have to monitor, Hank's health to see, what that decision is going to be. It is a right shoulder injury, to Hank. Obviously very important, just in terms of, getting that power back and things like that. So, again, I think that's why you saw Jack finish the game. I thought he looked pretty decent, really stretched the field, found Cyrus Allen on a couple nice plays. But again, I think if you're Louisiana Tech, for as concerning as the offense and defense was tonight, if you don't have Hank Bachmeier, who knows what this offense is? Because certainly the run game has looked stronger in the past 2 games. That being said, you faced a Northwestern State team that was really bad, and you faced statistically the worst run defense in the country coming into tonight with North Texas. So we'll see how real the run game development is. But if you don't have Hank Bachmeier back there, it'll be interesting to see if Jack Turner can take the reins. He certainly looked good in some stretches tonight. I would be interested to see him in a full game environment. We certainly haven't seen that from him since he's obviously been lower on the depth chart. But again, I think it's going to be interesting to see what Hank's health looks like. I still think probably either way, I probably have Nebraska taking that game, in Lincoln with that crowd, and obviously I think Nebraska won its game tonight, so they're feeling some momentum as well. So I think in general, just a very poor performance all across the board from Louisiana Tech. And again, I think like I said at the beginning, there's certainly a ton of games left to be played. They haven't even entered conference play officially yet. Certainly, they opened the year with a win over FIU, but the stretch of conference play has not begun yet. So I think if you're Louisiana Tech, there's still a lot in front of you. But I think it was, the red out tonight, a lot of fans, just kind of social media hype. I think a lot of people were expecting, like, okay, this is where Louisiana Tech can maybe make that turn, as to like, okay, we're going to be in the driver's seat for our season. And again, 2-2 is not a disaster, but 3-1 certainly sets you up for more possibilities and maybe a little bit more room for error. So, again, defensively, just a poor performance tonight. Offensively, starting slow again, can't have it. Run game looked okay at times. Tyree Shelton had a pretty nice game. But other than that, there wasn't really a whole lot to talk about in terms of positives. So, that's going to do it for me here at Joe A. Stadium tonight. Again, Louisiana Tech loses 40-37 to North Texas. They are now 2-2 on the season and will head to Lincoln, Nebraska next week to take on the Cornhuskers. So, from the Ruston Daily Leader, I'm sports reporter Matt Belinson saying thank you for listening. Have a good one.